Well, welcome, folks, to the C Files. I've had a night to sleep on the presidential debate last night. And I'm sure my thoughts are going to continue to develop as I continue to reflect on what happened last night. Um, let me begin with CNN. I Some people call CNN the Communist News Network. I prefer to call it the Corrupt News Network. But actually, last night, the debate seemed somewhat civil because of the format. But one thing I did notice about CNN is they would give Biden extra time to respond back to Trump, but they did not provide Trump with that same courtesy. And so Trump, when the next question came, he would have to answer Biden back from the previous attacks, where Biden would have received an extra minute to respond to Trump. Trump was not afforded that courtesy by the CNN anchor. So that told me right there that they were very, very biased against Trump. I felt the questions, for the most part, were good questions. They brought up the January 6th thing again, which I thought was petty, in my opinion, and tried to associate those who were breaking windows on the Capitol building and breaking into the Capitol building when it was the Capitol Police that opened the doors and let them in. And an FBI informant, was it Ray Epps, who was inciting for the people to go in, and people were saying, he's a Fed, he's a Fed, he's a Fed. Don't do it. But he was successful in inciting people to go in, and then the Capitol Police opened the door, and they let him in, and all this, and so this is what Biden was calling an insurrection. Nobody had weapons. Nobody was attacking anyone. The only people being attacked were the Trump supporters, and they were being attacked by the Capitol Police, and typically on orders, or maybe it was just inside operators that had set these people up. The entire insurrection narrative is just nonsense, in my humble opinion. Yeah, YouTube, go ahead and put your Wikipedia article about January 6th down below the video here. I know you're going to do it. You love Snopes and Wikipedia. Unreliable sites when it comes to sources and information. Snopes is a joke, and Wikipedia, which started out to be fairly good, has now turned into a left-wing propaganda site. It's garbage. I don't trust hardly anything Wikipedia puts out anymore. So, but they love when it comes to the Tavistock style propaganda, they'll do anything. CNN is Tavistock all the way, I'll guarantee you. So, and if you don't know what Tavistock is, if you have no clue what it is, do some study on it, folks. I'm serious. If you don't know what Tavistock is, then you have no clue what's going on in this country. You're clueless. Learn what's really going on. Now, watching the debate, I had disagreements with both candidates. But my biggest concern was the cognitive abilities of Biden. What they're doing to him, in my estimation, is elder abuse. My wife is a nurse. And when she got home last night, she was able to watch a little bit of the debate when she was at work, but, bits and pieces of it because she had to work. But what little she saw, she told me that Biden is not doing well medically, from what she could see. And there's America going to work this morning. That was a big pickup truck that just drove by. Number one, I have absolutely no respect for anyone who's around Biden who is unwilling to advise him, hey, maybe it's time to resign and get under the care of a doctor. If you're not doing that and you're in his administration or you're in his family, then I have absolutely zero respect for you. You don't care about the man. He needs to be under the care of a doctor, in my opinion. You can put up another candidate if you want, but my goodness, you're subjecting the entire country to this, and we've got serious situations occurring in the world. If this whole thing isn't, as some of the Q folks have theorized, a devolution plan, a continuity of government plan, and the military is actually running part of the country and all of that, the theories there. If that's actually not the case, and everything we're seeing is real, and it's not propaganda, it's not a fifth generation warfare psyop, if that's the case, then we have serious problems in the world. We're going to need someone in the White House over the next 4 years that's going to be able to handle those situations. I think as far as foreign policy goes, Trump did a really good job as the 45th president. And I think he would do a good job as the 47th. The one area I disagreed with him on was abortion. Another big pickup truck, America going to work. I don't think he's strict enough on abortion. Because that came up in the debate last night, the subject of abortion. He believes that in the case of rape and one other thing, I can't remember what it was. I'm not talking about the life of the mother. There was something else. That it's okay to murder an innocent child in the womb. It's okay to murder an innocent child in the womb, as long as the circumstances by which he was conceived are these particular circumstances. And that makes absolutely no sense to me at all, other than the emotional welfare of the mother. So we're going to take care of the emotional welfare of the mother by murdering the child? I will never, ever understand that mentality. It doesn't make any sense to me, number one. And number two, it's not biblical. For the Christians, you're not following God's revelation to us biblically when it comes to that. If you believe the child should be killed for the sins of the father. And Trump believes in those exceptions. I don't. And he acknowledged that not everybody's going to acknowledge that. You know, he agreed. He understood that there were different views on that. He said so in the debate, but I don't agree with those exceptions. I think he's too soft on that subject, and that's really the only place I really disagreed with him on. With Biden, I disagreed with a lot. I mean, just about everything. I think he's wrong on Ukraine. I think he's wrong on Israel. I think a lot of my fellow Christians are wrong on Israel. When you begin to, I don't want to get off into things that YouTube is going to really hammer my channel on, because they don't allow free speech. That's another thing I wanted to talk about, was the attack on free speech. And the fact that CNN wouldn't allow YouTube channels to carry, I mean, we're talking about news channels that specialize in doing the news on YouTube. They were not allowed the same privileges that their elitist fellow news agencies were allowed. Fox News, ABC, NBC. They were allowed to carry the debate live, but the YouTube news channels were not. So they took their elitist nose and thumbed their nose at us. I'm not a news channel on YouTube, but it tells you what they think of the common people, of everyday people out here working and going to work every day and take care of their family. It tells you what they think of us. They think we're serfs underneath them. They look down upon us. That's CNN. So anyway, when it comes to that, the Biden administration obviously is not pro free speech. Obviously not pro free speech. I can't support them on that. But I think the first things that need to happen is in foreign policy. And I was talking about my fellow Christians in Israel. First, I don't agree with the theology that most of my fellow Christians have when it comes to Israel, the eschatology that they have when it comes to Israel. I think they're completely ignoring or misunderstanding what Paul wrote in Romans concerning Israel. And they believe that the nation in the Middle East today that has attached the name Israel to itself, they believe that that's the restoration of the biblical Israel, the Israel that existed in the Old Covenant. I think they're sorely confused on that. I believe they are deceived on it, and I don't buy into that psyop at all. I know they think 1948, the Balfour Accord, is a miracle. Not so fast. When you have billionaires who run the international banks, and have been funding wars for many years, backing you, and can fund you in a way that you're able to defend yourself against multiple nations, I wouldn't call that a miracle. And that would be the 1967 war, that'd be the 1973 war. Remember, these billionaire bankers, they fund both sides of the war. So when Israel was attacked, they funded both sides. And they make a lot of money on that. And personally, I think we're being lied to when it comes to who conducted the attack on October 6th in Israel. They're blaming Hamas, and then they're attacking the Palestinian people, which is not Hamas. So you blame this group, and then you attack this group. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Yeah, well, no. They're attacking Hamas. They're attacking Hamas. Are you sure about that? Or is that just the fifth generation mind manipulation, mind control, propaganda that you're being fed in the news media? Remember, we're living in one big psyop. And this entire world is under one big, huge psyop right now. Because there are people in positions of power, international bankers, World Economic Forum, I hate to say it, but NATO, that they want to keep you deceived as to what's really going on. And they don't tell you the truth, folks. They don't tell you the truth. And neither does Wikipedia, neither does Snopes, and neither does a lot of the idiotic propaganda that's being pushed on the social media sites these days. You got to dig deeper. Yes, people died on the October 6th attack against Israel. And yes, I believe that was Hamas, and I believe Iran was connected with the funding on that. But I also believe that the same people, the same kind of people that planned Pearl Harbor, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, were the same type of people planning that one as well. That was a false flag operation, a black swan operation that was conducted not only by Hamas and Iran, but also by many of my fellow Christians' favorite foreign government, because they believe they are God's chosen people. It took too long for the response. They held that back. That was a psyop. That was done on purpose so that, just like in the Gulf of Tonkin incident, just like Pearl Harbor, they could rally the people and send, and have a major war against the people that they hate, they don't like, they wanted to get rid of, they wanted to shove them off into the ocean and take the land. And this concept that those whom, God's words to Abraham, those who bless you I will bless, those who curse you I will curse, that those words apply to the modern day nation over there that claims to be the same nation of the old covenant. That theology and that eschatology, I believe, is sorely flawed, and it's absolutely wrong. When I read the scriptures, especially Romans, I can only conclude that that promise to Abraham applies to the modern day church, not to any nation, including the nation over there that claims the same name as the nation that was in the Old Covenant. It is a promise to the church. The children of Abraham, that's the church. It's the elect, the remnant. We need to get our theology straight. And we need to start understanding that. And stop supporting things that are evil and justifying things that are evil simply because we have this false concept that has been so prominent within the church. It needs to stop. All right. So allowing Joe Biden to have that time to speak was a bad strategy by the Democrats because it hurt him, folks. Even the CNN panel after the debate was lamenting the fact that that he didn't look good when he was speaking, that it was not a good thing. It was hurting him really bad because his cognitive decline became very, very evident. And even when Kamala Harris, the former Attorney General for the state of California, who signed my advanced post certificate when I got my advanced post in law enforcement in California. Yeah, I have a certificate with her signature on it. Could it have been anybody else, please? But it is what it is. Even she was having a hard time defending Joe, and the reporters were asking about his mental decline. And so the problem is, if this is not just a big psyop by Q, or not by Q, but that Q revealed in the Q posts and all that, if the anti-Q side is right, by the way, it's not QAnon, it's Q. There's Q and there are nons. If you can't even get that right, you have no Q. You have no clue what Q is. You're clueless. If you call Q QAnon, you're clueless. You have no. You don't even know step one as to what that's about. There's Q and there are nons. The nons are the interpreters of Q, and Q was whatever intelligence agency or team was putting that information out. That's what it was. Bottom line. If those who theorize that Q has been telling us that this is all a show, get your popcorn out, it's not real, then we have a different situation, don't we? A situation where the Constitution has been suspended for continuity of government because our government has been completely taken over by traitors. That's what some believe. Others don't believe that. And so the other alternative is that all this is real and we're in serious trouble. The world is in serious trouble. Now, Putin denied what the elitist, snobby news media claimed of him, that he was ready to go to war against NATO, nuke NATO, and so forth. He denied that last night and said it was ridiculous. So who do you believe, folks? I mean, the world looks like it's about to blow up. And yet some folks are saying, oh, that's all fake. And other folks are saying, no, it's real. Who do you believe? It's hard to tell, isn't it? Because there is so much deception that's going on. It's hard to tell. So, here's the final analysis. I am thankful that God is real. God is sovereign. God has providence. And God will determine our future, not man. We see what kind of mess man can make. But God straightens all of that out, doesn't he? We made a mess of things in the garden. Eve worshipped the tree. The tree was the pride of life, the lust of eyes and lust of the flesh. That was Eve. And Adam worshipped Eve and made her his idol. And thousands of years later, Eve is still worshiping the tree. Women are still worshiping the tree. And men are still worshiping women. It hasn't changed. And so Christ came along at the perfect time in history and performed the act of final redemption on the cross, rose again on the third day, triumphant over sin and death. And those who believe on him would have eternal life. John 3:16, John 3:18. Don't forget about John 3:18. It even clarifies John 3:16 even more. But when Tim Tebow put John 3:16 under the eyes here before a football game, 94 million people had to Google or go on social media and look up John 3:16 because they had no clue what it was. According to Tim Tebow, according to what he was told. Does that not tell you the condition that our nation is in? That people didn't even know that basic principle in the scriptures? That's downright scary. That people are that ignorant spiritually in our country. God help us. Well, I hope he does. We'll see what happens in this election. The people who are trying to hold power, and by the way, propping up our current president, at times I felt like I was watching, there went a big work van, America's going to work. At times I felt like I was watching Weekend at Bernie's, watching that debate last night. And that's not meant to be a joke. I mean, I was like, oh, good night, that poor man. Get him out of the office. He needs medical care. But nobody seems to care about him, do they? But here goes. We're coming down to the final few months, and the nation will make a decision. And I'm hoping that people don't go to the polls this time and only to find out that someone else has voted in their name and all they get is a provisional ballot, and their vote doesn't count. And someone else votes differently in their name and their vote gets counted for a candidate that they don't support. I hope that doesn't happen this time. It happened really bad last time. But when you have that happening in elections, like Georgia, like Arizona, God help us with all that cheating. Then your country is dying. It's going downhill. It's dying at that point. And our country is dying. But God, in His providence, will determine the outcome of all of this. And all I have to say is, God's will be done. Job said, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Naked came I out of my mother's womb, naked shall I return. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And that was after he lost everything. And my attitude is, if everything falls apart in this country, and it very well may, and if we end up in a nuclear war, which is a real threat, if what we're seeing is correct and true and not a big, huge psyop, the threat of nuclear war is very real, then my attitude is God's will be done. Because God will sort it out. And He always does. He sorted out the mess that we made in the garden. He'll sort out the mess that we make today. So we need to stop worshiping government as a false idol. We need to stop worshiping the tree, the pride of life, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, as a false idol. And men, you need to stop worshiping Eve as a false idol. So there's 3 things we can confess before God that we have committed as a people that has sent our country down the wrong path. And then we have politicians living in a fantasy world while the rest of us have to live in the real world. They claim the economy's fine while we have to live in their economy. They claim that they have control over crime when we have to live under that crime. Those acts of evil conducted all over the country against people who are just trying to live their lives. They claim that the border is secure in their fantasy world. We have to live with an open border. So they live in a fantasy world. We live in the real world. And I think that's why we're seeing the nationalist populist movement that we're seeing in our country. Because I think the people see that clearly. That the politicians are out for themselves in a fantasy world. And we're just trying to survive in the real world that they have created for us. And as Klaus Schwab said, you will have nothing and be happy. And he called us useless eaters. Well, given his Darwinian worldview, I could see where he's coming from on that, but I don't share his Darwinian worldview. Along with Yuval Noah Harari, who believes that we could become immortal by cybernetics. What an idiot. That guy, to be as mentally intelligent as he is, he's an idiot spiritually. Intelligence isn't going to get us out of this mess, folks. Your Harvard and Yale degrees, PhDs, are not going to get us out of this mess. There's only one thing that can get us out of this mess. It's when we humbly bow ourselves before a holy and a righteous God. And beg for his mercy and his grace. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be doing a Hebrews this weekend. And hopefully we'll have the Vortex Apologetic podcast. We'll do something on that. Maybe tonight, maybe over the weekend. My partner on that podcast is busy right now with family things going on. And I respect that time that he needs with his family. And so we will put something out as soon as we can, and we'll be able to go a lot more in depth in all of this in the next podcast. So thanks for watching. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.